And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Rebecca Tacitano. Rebecca is the co-founder at Project Kickass. So Rebecca, welcome, first up.
Thank you.
And Project Kickass. Quick overview
Yes.
of that. Sounds awesome.
Okay. So there's a story behind the name. I run Project Kickass. I'm the co-founder with my partner, Eric Steves, and we met at a networking meeting and I started talking to him about business. Long story short, he put a piece of paper down on the table and he wrote at the top Project Kickass. And then he proceeded to write everything that you needed to do to start a business, and then flipped it over and then continued to write everything that you needed to do to start a business. And he just brain dumped that onto a sheet of paper. And at the top, he called it Project Kickass. So that name of our company is Project Kickass, but sometimes it's called PKA Solves. Although I found that every time I introduce myself as PKA Solves, my clients later on ask me, what does PKA stand for? So now I just lead with, it's Project Kickass.
I didn't even make that. I know Project Kickass, and I didn't work out that's what it was. I also think it's a big accounting company over here as well. So you've just put in my head a mental image of Eric writing this stuff out there like a human chat GPT. Just like
He is a human. That is exactly.
he is.
Look up Eric Steves. He is a human chat GPT. You won't believe, but he is more innovative, I think. He's so good at drawing disparate pieces of information and then drawing the connections between them and having ideas that just are so out of the box. I could talk about him all day. So look him up on LinkedIn.
He can look for his own invite on here. And actually, Eric,
Yes.
if you are listening, you're invited anytime, mate. But no, I want to talk about you and talk about the part of Project Kickass that deals with communities. But first, could you lead with your backstory? Because I remember when we first met, you told me this. I thought this was awesome, and it links into the community thing.
I'd be happy to. So my first job was at the age of around 5 or so, and it was my parents' business. And my parents, kind of out of the blue, started a business being clowns at children's birthday parties and clowns at corporate events, et cetera, et cetera. So I was making balloon animals and painting faces and leading children's games from the age of 5 up. And it was kind of my side gig as a child on the weekends. And so imagine yourself as an 8-year-old and you walk into a room full of people who have assembled to have a party, and it's your job to make the party happen. You don't know these people, but you know what, you know how to make balloons and you know how to make games happen. And you walk in and you say, okay, everyone, this is what's going to happen. And by the end of a 2-hour session, everybody leaves excited, happy. That was a great party. That was my job. And so to be a young person and to walk into rooms of adults or rooms of adults and children and have that presence and be able to read the room and be able to make a really exciting event start to happen kind of out of nothing was a skill set that has served me extremely well into adulthood and now helps me to do what I do, which is to create virtual communities. I create virtual communities for people that want to go on a journey of transformation. And I change people's audiences into interactive groups of people. So that's what I do. And I've been doing it in person since the age of 5, but recently for the past year or two.
Yeah. Doing it virtually, which we'll come on to, but I just love that backstory. It's like it's just trumps. Well, it trumps everybody. It's just like, yeah, first job was at 5, and it was supporting clowns, and it was entertaining groups of adults. Like, wow, all people have everything. Yeah,
it works really well
cool.
in interviews. So, if you leave somebody a balloon animal at the end of the interview, they'll remember you as the person.
So while you're answering the questions and talking to them and answering the sort of the sensible, probably quite logical stuff that they're asking you, you're creating a balloon animal and you put it on the desk and leave it them at the end.
At the end, yeah.
Very cool. Well, we'll talk about logic and emotion, I guess, in a little bit, but that's cool. So I could just talk about this all day. So you came on first, so to speak, to start warming the audience up before the clowns came.
Well, it wasn't just me. I was a clown.
Uh,
So I was like an 8-year-old clown, like a miniature white face, red nose, all dressed in red, white, and blue, stars and stripes. I'm in the United States. We had a stars and stripes theme. And it wasn't just me, it was my dad, who probably was in his 40s at the time, my mom, and me and my two younger siblings. So we walked in as 5 clowns and we all kind of set up and did our thing. My mom was in charge of the children's games. My dad was in charge of the balloon animals. I did the face painting. We kind of all had our roles and we just set up and made a party happen and then came back together and packed up and left. We also did Santa and his elves. So it was, I know, it's the
Seasonal.
gift that keeps on giving. Yeah.
Oh, that's. Oh, I would have gone for the job where I was on first because I would literally just wanted to be the person who said, "Bring on the clowns." But hey,
That's a
me.
good idea.
And I'm weird. Right. Shall we talk about communities?
Let's talk about communities. That's what we're here.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. And let's start off then with kind of why are they such a good idea? I mean, you've intimated about it already, but why is a community such a good idea?
A community is a great idea, especially right now in history, because it deepens the level of trust that you have between you and your target audience, or you and any group of people. It deepens the level of trust, them with you, but also you with them. So when you show up on LinkedIn every day and you post every day, you are creating trust and you are providing value, and people are associating value with your name. But it's a one-to-many communication. It's a broadcast. And you're not really sure who you're broadcasting to. LinkedIn might change their algorithm and now you're in front of a different set of eyeballs than you thought. In a community, if you create a community, you have control over who's in the community and you can invite just your raving fans. You have control. You don't have to be beholden to an algorithm, and you can start having conversations, which is my favorite part. It turns your audience into your supporters and you get to talk to them and they get to talk back to you because they have just as many ideas for you as you have for them if you provide a format where they can talk back to you.
Because what we're doing then is we're kind of getting people who are interested in something who can focus in on that thing and really kind of go to town on that rather than all the distractions of all the other silliness going on.
Yes, and
please,
right now,
please.
so right now in history, if you are interested in something very specific, you can connect with people across the globe that are interested in that same specific thing. Whereas communities that were constrained to a local geography, you had to find all the people within your 25-mile radius that were interested in that thing. And that's less people than when you can cast a global net. And you can also get really, really niche down into a very specific problem that people are trying to solve. And you can find your peers, or you can create a community where people can find their peers that are trying to solve the same problems. And instead of being isolated, all reinventing the wheel together, we can come together under one framework and try it out and share stories with each other and help each other on this journey of transformation. And that is really the sweet spot of community that I like to live in.
Yeah, no, it's interesting you say this time in history, because I was thinking about this just before we started talking. And I mean, as human beings, we're wired for this sort of thing anyway, aren't we? So if you went right back in history, that's what we do. We form the tribe, and then tribes have become clubs, gangs, whatever. It's what we do, yeah?
It's what we do. We write to communicate. You can look at cuneiform. We pass on our information that way. We create rituals to bring people into the group and to distinguish these are the people that are in our group and these are the people that aren't in our group yet. All of these things we've been doing for as long as human beings have been alive, and it's led to us becoming the apex predators that we are, is our collaboration together. It's literally in our brains to have communities, and it's a very important part of the reason that we're successful as human beings.
Yeah, it's in our brains because that's how we survive. As you say, Adam, when we become successful because of it. So it's we're not trying to force people to do something unnatural. It's a very natural thing to do. And so, I mean, yeah, you talked kind of there about setting up a community and why that would be a good thing for someone like me or you to do. But as the member of a community, I mean, yeah, you're starting to talk about that. You know, we're going to come together. We're going to solve stories. We're going to solve problems. We're going to share stuff. Well, what are the benefits? What might I be missing that as a community member is a good idea to join this stuff?
So communities, there are different types of communities, there's different levels of communities, but if you think about a community that was influential for you growing up or that you're part of now that's really helpful, probably it helps you to feel like your problems are more navigatable and that you're not alone on your journey. There's just something about seeing people who are in almost exactly your same spot have success or have failure and all come together and boost each other up and say, okay, let's keep going. That is just so, it's really helpful. It's like running alongside other people who are also doing this really long run. It's one thing to do it by yourself and to have your own individual will and to say, yes, I will do it. And it's another thing to know that you can vent to somebody else who understands what you're going through, or you can be inspired by somebody who is just right ahead of you. And in communities like yours, you have also this mentor figure where you can ask this person that you respect for help on almost an individual basis. Even though you're amongst many community members, you know that that person has an eye to your problems. And that's just so helpful psychologically to push past where you've gone before into uncharted territory alongside a team of people, even if you truly are doing it alone.
Yeah. One of the communities I was part of, so I mentioned Daniel Priestley before. One of his phrases is that environment dictates performance. So if
Mm.
you're surrounded with people like that, like-minded, want to perform, want to push on, want to get better, it is going to drag you along. You're in the right place to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
And you need to develop a different set of skills to go where you want to go than you have to be where you are. That's just as we go through life, as we try to do new things, we need to develop a new set of skills. So it's so helpful to have other people going with you to the gym, so to speak, and then to be met at the gym by somebody who's been doing it for 15 years and can tell you exactly what to do and to tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. That type of environment is really helpful for that journey of transformation.
yeah. No, cool. I was wondering whether we should just be slightly negative for a moment.
Let's.
Um, Because there is this phenomena, isn't there, that the kind of the crabs in a bucket phenomena, where if people are being successful, I mean, like this, the crab's in the bucket, so when the crab tries to climb out, doesn't it? And the other crabs pull it back, and if he keeps trying, it'll break his legs off. It's like it's horrible. But sometimes people can be like that. They don't like seeing success, and if somebody is doing well, they can get pulled back in. And I
That's
guess
true
this is
too.
it's depends answer. But I mean, is that a danger in a community that if somebody's starting to be too good, community doesn't like it, community will put the dampers on it.
That is one of the things to be aware of and to be looking for because yeah, we've existed in tribes for a long time
Yep.
and it's hard to see somebody that is accelerating beyond you. I think that it kind of speaks to the gravitational pull of a community because we've been talking so far about the gravitational pull of a community pushing you forward or pulling you
Yep.
forward on your journey of transformation. But it is an interesting thought to say, oh, maybe you at one point outgrow a community or something like that. I think honestly it's the job of a good community manager to be aware that that is a possibility and to navigate that. That's why it's helpful to have somebody that is helping you to keep an eye on your community because group dynamics are part of a community and group dynamics can go any kind of way on any given day. But there's a phrase that I learned recently, which is that the strength of the relationship is in the repair, which I really like. So that
Mm.
the idea is that if you have a relationship and things don't go well, like you don't, you have a conversation and it just doesn't go well, the strength is in the repair. So it's not in never misstepping or never failing. It's in coming back together and saying, okay, how can we come back together, and can that be stronger? So the idea being that the repair makes things stronger, and then you can progress forward like that.
Yeah, I was being deliberately pessimistic. I was being deliberately devil's advocate, because I suspect, well, we need a good community manager like you. But also I suspect if you're going to that community, it's because you want everyone to succeed. And if somebody starts behaving a little bit like that, it's like, when you do a presentation and there's the sort of the heckler or the person who's trying to put the presenter off, the rest of the audience like, no, pack it in. We want to hear this person. We want to be here. We're getting stuff out of this. It's you's got the problem, and they kind of get pushed out.
Yeah, it's important to establish, one of the first things that you should establish for your community is those values, or that like kind of rules of the road idea. And it's kind of like a terms and conditions document where people are like, okay, check, got it, those are your values. But it's really important to establish, hey, these are our values, and this is what this specific container is like. This is what our culture is like, and this is what's okay, and this is what's not okay. And to create that container, because that is the safety net that you're creating around these group of people that allow them to come together and to trust one another. So thinking about things like that when you think about your rules of the road is an important idea.
And that sounds pretty fundamental. I mean, it's like, get that stuff established early, have it as your foundation piece, and then you can start building around that. So what do we need to build then? We've got that good solid basis. We're going to build, and you're talking virtual now, because why wouldn't you? Well, why that 25 miles? You've got no car.
Even
It's
if you
fine.
had a 25, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Even if you had a local community, you could give them an opportunity to engage virtually. And the virtual community, in my opinion, is a lot about that asynchronous communication, where you just want to be able to, when you're, when it's midnight and you can't sleep, like type something to somebody that will care. And those people might be that community for you if the community goes really well. So that's the idea, is that you can pop on and you can type something when you feel like it, and then pop off, and you don't have to necessarily be live, although live elements are very important in a community also. But ask your question again, because
it's probably something to do with our mindsets. Because you could come in, and I'll be like, no, if I've got a problem, I can ask it before I go to bed, and then everyone can mull on it, and it might be solved by the time I open my phone and have a look tomorrow morning. Let's see if the
you
community
slept
sorted
and
it for
now
me.
you've got an answer in the morning. What a great
Brilliant.
feeling.
Happy days.
Especially in a global community, somebody in
Yeah.
Australia might be like, it's 3 p.m. I'm bored. I'll answer your question.
Yeah, easy one, Fred. Okay, good. Right. Start the day with my answer.
Yeah.
Selfish. So asynchronous communication, important. You've also said the live elements. Okay, so talk us through why live is important. What does that bring to the party, so to speak? Because it's a party, isn't it? Let's call it a party.
It is a party. I always think of it as a party. I think of a community as a dance floor, is how I think of it. And when you go in and into a room and all the lights are on and there's like one person on the dance floor, you don't really feel it. But if the lights are off and there are, 50 people on the dance floor, you might feel, okay, I can edge in and I can start seeing what this is about. So I love that metaphor. I think the live component is really important. And when I say live, I mean synchronous. So I mean at the same time. So it doesn't mean that you could use a pre-recorded video, but that everybody's there at the same time and has an opportunity to engage at the same time. So giving people opportunity to be in breakout rooms, or giving people opportunities to do an Ask Me Anything session with an expert is always helpful. And then you get to see people's names pop up with different questions, and get to interact with people in real time. That's an important part of a community, is that in real time interaction. And something I've thought about recently is that in a virtual community, you kind of see people's names and you see their little profile pictures before you know who they are. And then over time, you associate that name with a person that you've met. I thought it was interesting because in real life, you might associate the person's face, but not quite remember their name. And then when you get to the point that you know their name, that's how you know, like, okay, now we're actually friends. We actually have a relationship. But it's kind of the opposite in a virtual community. You see people's faces and then you start to associate their their face and their name with the person that they are. And so to see people that have been talking asynchronously come into a live forum and see each other post a question and get really excited because you actually know who that person is and you know kind of what they're about is an exciting first part of a community.
I mean, and this is quite a modern thing, isn't it? And I mean, how many conversations have you had where you've jumped onto a Zoom or Teams call with somebody, and it's like, I feel as though I know you, and because it's actually the first time you've ever chatted live, but you've interacted, you've seen what they say, you've picked up some posts on LinkedIn or other social media, so you get a good feel for them, and it's like, oh, it's the first time we met, but I feel like I've known you for 2 years or something like that.
Exactly. So you've been interacting with that asynchronous communication that can happen at any time, can happen at your convenience by seeing their LinkedIn post or by seeing whatever they've written somewhere. And then when you see them live, there's that feeling of, we're here, we're in the same room, even though we've never met. We're in 2 different countries. There's an ocean that separates us. When I hopped on this today, I was like, Fred, it's been forever, because I have that feeling with you, even though we've literally never met. We have met and we have had that interaction. And it's incredible how real that can feel, even in a virtual setting.
Yeah, no, it's I don't, what would our ancestors make of this?
Well, the
But
same thing we thought of 20 years ago, which is that's
three
stupid.
3 years ago.
Exactly. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so live streams, and I was thinking about this, the sort of things, and again, a bit selfish. The sort of thing I do is, we do the Q&A. So anyone can come on, ask a question. It's sort of ask me anything, but it's asking everybody anything, really, isn't it? I'm gonna pretend I've got all the answers.
Yeah,
Because
and I
like,
just want to dig into that really quickly because I think people don't leverage their audience very often, because when you're on stage, you feel like, okay, I have to be the expert, I have to handle all the questions, but there's so much knowledge in the room. And a great facilitator is able to take the knowledge in the room and kind of give people the opportunity to connect there. Some of the best conferences I've been to, I remember the parts where nothing was going on and I was just connecting with the people that were there. And so that's the beauty of community, is that you get both. And when you're on stage, you get the benefit of the audience.
Rebecca, I've trained people for 20 years. The what do you think is second nature.
Yes.
That's easy, that one.
What do you think?
Interesting question. What do you all think? No.
It's so helpful. Why not? We're all one giant brain, right? If we're all individual neurons in a giant collective brain, and why not use the power of our collective brain rather than using one person's brain on the spot? And if you say, what do you think? And give 5 people an opportunity to talk, then you've thought about all of the things that they've said, and then your answer is more informed by your own thoughts and their thoughts.
Yeah, and then sometimes people do try to show off by answering everything off
That's
that. So I mean, what I was thinking is we've got the Q&A, like I said, ask me or ask everybody anything. Training, so there's going to be an element of, if there is an expert in the community, that's probably why people have joined. Okay, here's some stuff that I'm seeing around that I want to get you guys all up to date with. That's my job, to have people on the pulse. Accountability, which can be live stream, but also can be asynchronous. Getting people to say out loud or to write down, that's Cialdini influence technique, isn't it? Consistency and commitment. Get it out there. What else did I think? Guest speakers. So having other people come into our little gang and tell us stuff that we might find interesting. Yeah, is another one. What other live stream things work quite well, would you say? I probably nailed all the good ones.
Yeah, you've nailed all the great ones. Well, I would say in addition to live streaming, that there's that component that you could, be on Zoom, or you could be on a version of the metaverse, or whatever, Gather Town, or I want to plug Topia as a great metaverse resource. So you're there and you get the opportunity to break out into small groups. And this is what I want to hammer home about community that I learned about 6 months ago, is that it's in those groups of 3 to 5 to 8 people that we create real intimacy. And so when you get to find, 4 other people that you really click with, and you get to have that small group experience, that's what makes the community really sticky. And so to give people an opportunity to go into breakout rooms in a way that you've structured really well is really helpful as well. So in addition to the live streaming things that you can do, also think about what you can do to get your community all in a room and then break them into smaller groups, whether that's competitions. Okay, we've named these 4 groups, these 4 different things, and they're going to do these different challenges. Or you ask a question, send people to breakout rooms, they answer the question, and then they come back and reflect to the whole group. There's lots of different ways to do it, but that is also a very important part of being live.
For sure. Again, and we would include that in good, well-constructed training. And I'm just thinking about that. I mean, for me, it's always been like a very practical thing. It's because if there's only 3 or 4 people in a group, you get to share more in a shorter period of time. So you get to speak, and you're not going to lose stuff, and there's nowhere to hide. Is there some brain science in this? I'm now thinking about 5 is a number that is ringing a bell of there tend to be 5 people that you're naturally closer to, because that's what we can handle with, or something like that.
Yeah,
Ooh,
our brain, I know that our brain has like 4 slots for memory.
USB slots.
Oh yeah, there's 4 USB slots in your forehead.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to remember 3 things, or it's easy for us to remember 4 things, and then when we get beyond that, it's harder to juggle all of the piece of information. So maybe it plugs in there.
Yeah. But from a pure practical point of view, it's just easier to talk and share, and then come back and do that. Okay. Oh, cool. Right. What else do we need to have? I feel like we're building this community. We've got our good solid basis, the values, the rules. This is how we do stuff around here. Actually, there's 2 things there, aren't there? There are the rules, and then there's those kind of, what would you call them? But this is how we do stuff around here. Stuff.
Yeah, like little
don't be rude, be
rituals
respectful, that kind of thing. But this is kind of the language.
Yeah,
we
use this emoji for this,
Yeah.
and we use this is our slang, and these are the concepts that we know. Yeah, these are our like kind of in group.
Yeah, and then we've got places where we can talk about certain stuff, different media for doing that. So live or the asynchronous stuff, we've got all that going on. Any other sort of magic ingredients we need to put in there to make it really go?
Well, the one thing that is going to make sure that your community is successful is getting people in the habit of going to your community. So people can join a free community or even join a paid community and then not develop the habit of showing up there. And so that's something that you really want to focus on in that first quarter of having a community, is kind of making sure there's a snacks table in your party and inviting people to the snacks table over and over again, and getting them to associate coming to your community with whatever core feeling or emotion that you're going for, whether that's belonging, or there's a sense of status, or there's a sense of relief. Whatever it is that you want in your community, make sure that people are coming to the community, finding that, and then developing a habit of coming back to your community. And when we talk about virtual communities, there's kind of a learning curve to your community, and there's also a learning curve to whatever platform you've hosted your community on. So you don't want people to be dissuaded by the learning curve and be like, I don't even know how to walk around in here, so I'm out, I'm never coming back. Even if they've paid for it, it could disincentivize them. So you want to make it easy for them to learn how to operate in your community in all of those different ways, and then develop a habit of coming to your community and being satiated in their request or their need over and over until they would rather come there than scroll through Instagram or scroll through LinkedIn, because they know the people there and they have a stronger bond with the people in the community.
Emotional, the core feeling, or link back to the values that we all share. I spoke to David Allison twice actually on this podcast, because he talks all about values, about value graphics. We should be talking about that rather than demographics and stuff. And if you're assembling people who share the same values, and that's what we talk about every time, and that's what we get out of it, they'll keep coming back. In fact, he talked about, I remember there's one of these expressions that lodged in my head. He said, when you start doing that, it's like giving a dog a snack. Yeah. Which is when you said the snacks table. It's like, I keep coming back to the snacks table because that's what I get. I get that feeling. I get that hit. Well, that's a really interesting part.
It's huge. It's
Wow.
important. That's why we come back to the communities. And it can go the other way too. So it's really important to monitor this and to know that it's not all in your control, but that it could be that people show up and then they don't feel great in your community. Like they feel like they're on the outside, or they feel like they're not respected, or they feel any kind of way. So you want to give them multiple interactions, multiple times to click into the community and get something that they want. And when they've done that, then they'll build the habit of coming there and posting and sharing, because that's really what you want from your community, is that engagement. That is how you know that the community is going well, is that you've got some comments, you've got some posts, you've got some people showing up multiple days in a row. You want to build that habit.
Wow. Oh, so much. So again, challenges. I think I've been involved in those. I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've put into my own academy is because I've been part of communities where I thought this stuff has worked for me. This isn't theory stuff. Yeah, we can try and work out the brain science and the rest of it, but it's just bloody works. I've got what I wanted from that group of people I've hung out with. But is there anything else that you'd say back as we start to just, I could talk about this on and on and on.
I know we're
Parties
just
that never
scratching
end.
the surface.
I
Yeah.
know we are, but is there any sort of last thing or main thing you'd love to kind of to wrap up on communities?
The thing that we have the opportunity to do right now is to build the future that we wish to see ourselves. We have the tools to do it. And if you're doing it, in my opinion, in 2023, if you're doing it for LinkedIn, or if you're doing it for Facebook or for Instagram, and you're building your community there, you're missing out, because you have no control over what they do with their platform, how how people feel about that platform over time. You have control over your own community. So once you find your people on social media, bring them into your own community when you feel ready, build the container, do it right, and know that it's easier to start a community than to maintain a community. And there's kind of a lot of things to think about before you start a community to make sure that it goes well. It's kind of like planning a good party. You have to think about a few things to make sure that it goes well when you invite people in. But once you have your own community, you can build it into your own empire even. You can start to have your own conferences. You can start to be that category of one that people talk about and that people want to be, because right now it's kind of an attention economy. So if you get the attention, the solid attention of even 50 people over the course of even 3 years, if you've got the attention of 50 people, that's a really solid base to build from. And when you own your own community, you own that thing that you have built. So that is my message in 2023, is that I think that communities are going to be as common as podcasts, if not more common, that it's our time to build the future that we want to see. And community is a great way to do that, to get started.
Awesome. Now, do you know anybody that could help us do that? Daft question, Fred. Where can people get in touch with you to help with this? Because you can certainly get the party started on this.
I would love to help you get your party started and to continue the energy. That's really what I'm in the business of, is continuing the energy, testing it out, finding the formula for you and for your community, so that we've revved the engine and now you can go. Because it's in the first 6 months that people join your community and then they never come back. So I'll help you get through that first 6 months. My website is PKA Solves, as we mentioned, Project Kickass, PKASolves.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Rebecca Tassitano. That's T like Tom, A, S like Sam, E, T like Tom, A, N like Nancy, O. And there's lots of communities for you to join. So get in touch and we'll see where you fit.
Brilliant. We will pop those links into the show notes as well, so people can do that. And yeah, if you're remotely interested, please get in touch with Rebecca. She'll certainly help you out with that. Oh,
and
brilliant
join Fred's
to
community, because he is the real deal. He knows what he's doing. And if you're looking for a journey of transformation, I'm sure that you'll find what you're looking for in his community.
Oh, thank you. You've just made the clip for the promo. Don't worry, I'll find a better one. Super. Thank you so much for coming on. Really been informative and good fun, as usual.
I super enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Fred.